Hi guys, it's Michael from the Board Games Chronicle. Today I have for you another beautifully published title from the Compass Games. This time we shall talk about the Spanish Civil War in a game Crusade and Revolution. Game by David Gomez Reloso and, as I said, Compass Games. One remark here, I can really see that Compass Games is putting a lot of effort in creating really great quality games, especially the ones which were popular and which are re-edited. You can see this is the second edition, deluxe edition with the mounted maps and really beautiful components. What we'll do today, we'll create kind of a unboxing and overview video in which I will show you the components, but will also tell you a little bit more about the game mechanics. First and for all, the topic, the theme of the game. So the game tells us the tragic story of the Spanish Civil War, which lasted almost 3 years and devastated the Iberian Peninsula. You have very nice introduction to the history in the rule book here, which tells the story of the unsuccessful coup by the nationalists in the July 1936, then gradual escalation of the conflict, fight by the Republicans and Republican government, the intervention from outside, so Germans and Italians supporting nationalists, and the communist Soviets supporting the Republicans. Of course, the atrocities and terror which both sides did to the civilians of Spain, unfortunately, and the outcome which resulted in the victory of Spain. In essence, the game follows to large extent path of paths of glory. Yeah, I would say paths of glory, because many mechanics, many solutions and many ideas are actually taken, maybe not directly, but as definitive inspiration from this game. And as you shall see in a moment in the details, this will be clearly visible. So let's talk first about the rulebook. Rulebook is actually a combination of the rulebook and playbook. It has 83 pages, but only because 50 pages are of the playbook with optional rules, scenario setups, examples, and also the designer notes. The regular part of the rulebook, it's like 29 pages. We have explanation first of all of the places and spaces. I will show it to you on the map. The initial control by the Republicans, which is red, and nationalists, which is blue. Then there is a description of the units, and just like in Paths of Glory, you have division-sized units and you have corps-sized units, which are two-sided. We have a combat factor, you have a loss factor, and you have a movement factor. On top of it, you have multitude of additional counters, which shows and tracks various elements like game terror, what is the morale of Republicans, what is victory points. Some of the markers will be, put only once the event happened. R event means this is Republican event. N will mean that this is a nationalist, event. We'll have 6 markers, which allows us to show whether we move or attack. We'll have also the action, markers, 6 of them. I believe movement combat is 5, those are 6, so exactly like in the very well-known predecessor. Also the control markers. The rulebooks goes through the, turn, symbols and terminology. Will not be going here. Very nicely explains automatic victory. It, to large extent, depends on the morale of Republicans. It cannot be achieved in the first 3 turns and cannot be achieved in the last 3 turns. If automatic victory is achieved, one side wins. If not, then you calculate the victory points. The game sequence, just briefly. You draw strategy cards, you do the action phase, you have attrition, you have war status phase, then you have replacement and end of turn. Exactly follows the paths of glory. In the action phase, you can move, you can attack, you can play event, you can play replacement points, so you can also do the strategic redeployment. For the decks of cards, they are called, maybe I will just mention this to you guys, how the eras are called here. You have a War of the Columns, you have mobilization phase, and then you have the War of the Armies. So there are 3 types of cards, which we'll see in a moment. All the details are explained here, with the combat, advance, retreat, strategic deployment, of course, have a supply. There are supply source symbols on the map, which shows us which cities will be providing them. War progress, which allows you to add new cards to the deck, of course, and some special rules like sieges, isolated spaces. Republican morale is completely unique to this game. Solution, also how the winter is being played. The northern front can collapse and have impact on morale. How the armor is used, T26s, for example. And then we have special rules for the first part of the game, War of the Columns, so the initial phase of the war. And then we have the playbook. You see all this propaganda. Let's say posts. We'll not be going through this because there is a lot of optional rules. Setups of the scenarios, shorter scenarios like 5 turns. The campaign scenario is like 18 turns, exactly. So you have them all set up here. Then you have combat examples. Advices for players, this is also cool. Historical maps of the actual fight using the game map. You can see this is a game map. Okay, final situation when Franco announced the end of the war. And some designer notes and also explanations to the cards. So pretty condensed information in this rule book, which also has the playbook. We have to die, of course, nationalists, republicans, that's easy peasy. And then we have some additional materials, which are kind of innovative and pretty cool. First of all, player rates, and nothing special, you might say, and similar to what you would expect. Fire table for division-sized units and fire table for corps-sized units. Terrain effects, game sequence, as I saw, draw cards, activations, which you do, one after another. Then you have attrition, war status, replacements, and end of year. Okay, here you have the details which you need. There are some special, rules for the site, like nationalist site will have ammunition shortage, Madrid priority as a priority objective or not, and Army of Africa. Republican site mainly has this morale and lack of coordination. How do we do the sieges? Special units, the ones which have some additional features or skills possibilities. Automatic victory, which shows us, depending on the morale. For example, turn 5, if morale of Republican is 28 or more, they win automatically. At the end of turn 5, if morale is 16 or less, the nationalist wins automatically. Everything inside is we simply continue the game. And then we have Republican morale table, what adds, what removes it, how the events, actions and events impact this, and how the victory points are added or removed. What I like is that they added something new regarding the morale and victory points, this markers card. So you can have those markers here, which you are using during the game, and you can put them here or take them here and put on the map. And these are the ones which impact the Republican morale, and these are the ones which impact the victory points. On the back side, each player will have possibility, each of the 2 players, to have simply a reference of the combat units and the markers. Every marker in the game is briefly, described here, which is pretty cool. So you do not need to all the time revert back to the rulebook. Now let's look at the counters. We have like 6 sheets of the counters. So these are definitely Republican units, the corps size and the division size. This is the combat factor, loss factor, and movement factor. At the back you can see the weakened version of the unit. Here we have still some of those units. Soviet replacements, there will be also such. The positions, trenches, sieges, and now we start here with the nationalistic units. There are 2 isolated spaces at the beginning of the war. I will show them to you. Of course, at the back you have the weakened side of the troops. Here we have a lot of nationalistic forces, plus some Italians, as you can see, or German tanks even. These are the actions for the nationalistic side. Here we see the trenches, victory point. Here we have more of nationalistic forces with Italians here, out of supply markers, action markers for the Republican side, and axis replacement points. Here mainly the control markers. On the other side you have Republican, on this you have nationalistic, and also the markers for the events. And here some additional units. Last but not least, we have new markers, which means that you can mark which units already retreated, so if they attacked again they will be destroyed. And here are the markers for move and attack, exactly, to reflect it. And some additional units on the side of the Republicans, plus a card played events which impact either morale or victory points, the ones which I was showing a moment ago to you. Then we have cards, 2 sets of cards, 60 cards for Republicans and 60 cards for the nationalistic forces. 5 of them are optional. Okay, opening it. They are divided in 3 decks. I'm still learning. War of Columns, Mobilization, War of Armies. I believe this is how it was called. Not so easy to open without something sharp, but we should succeed. Okay, so the first deck is open. Now let me open the second one and we'll look at the details of the cards. You would see on them actually similar things as in Paths of Glory, but let me tell you about it now. So, War of the Columns, so the initial phase. These are the cards which take part there. Mobilization already starts here. So, these are the Republican cards for the Republican side for the War of the Columns, and you can see, for example, here that you have operation points which you can use for movement. You can use them also for the combat. You can play the event. You can play the replacement points also, and you can also do strategic redeployment. So Republican 4 points, Soviet 3 points, very powerful card. If you look at a less powerful card, so 2, it's only 1 replacement, 0 replacement. There will be combat cards. There will be cards with asterisks, which if you play, you simply remove from game. There should be only underlined, cards which are prerequisite for further events. Now let's look at the nationalistic side, but let's look at the War of the Armies. So this was the decisive phase of the war. Reduction of Soviet aid. Japan attacks China, of course. You see some very interesting, events. For me, for example, such games are really great also training of a history. So I really love, for example, reading about the events, to what they are connected and how the game reflects them. Closing of the French border. Wow. There are also optional cards, yeah, I told you about around 5 optional cards. Yeah, there are 5 optional cards. This is something cool, I believe. Yeah, this is 5 points and some conditions. Air Bridge. Air Bridge is a mandatory play for the first action round of turn 1. You remember Guns of August in the Path of Glory? Yeah, similar approach here. So this is something which helped Franco to move the army of Africa from Africa to Spain. Remember, the Republicans were blocking the Gibraltar Straits with a fleet, and that was the answer to this challenge. Okay, guys, last thing which I would like to present to you will be the map. So the map is huge, mounted and beautiful, and I'm just thinking if you will manage to see all of it. If not, I will simply move it a bit so you can see. So the map represents the Spain and represents the terrain controlled by each side at the beginning of the war. Okay, here it is. And here it is. Okay, now let me check in the camera what you can see. Hopefully a lot, but for sure not everything. Okay, so here is where the Republican player sits. He has his reserves here, eliminated units. He will have his actions here, yeah. And similarly, for the nationalistic player, you will have all this stuff here, yeah. So it's over there. There is a special track for the Army of Africa, which we would like to move from here, yeah, to the land as a nationalistic player. And then we have the whole Spain. The red color is the initially controlled areas by the Republicans. The blue, initially controlled areas by the nationalists. Granada and Oviedo are the 2 enclaves. So Granada is here. Oviedo is in the north. These are the 2 enclaves. You can see those golden markers. These are VP spaces. These are actually main cities. They are worth even more, like 2 VPs. That means also the supply source. These are the mountains, of course. This could be a supply source until specific, circumstances. Madrid is here, Valencia is here, yeah, Cartagena is here. So the map is point to point. These are the connections, either via rivers or via roads, but all of them we treat as connected. And the supply is important, because if you cut, the units from supply, they will suffer, of course. And the last thing, let me just move it a bit here. You will have the general records track, where you will have the replacement points, victory points, but also the morale of the Republicans track. And here you will have a turn track with some additional things listed, like excuse me, here, and we have end war of the columns, end of the mobilization phase, also whether the automatic victory is possible, if so, under which circumstances and conditions. Also some limitations on the turn 1. And we have also Mallorca, which can be invaded by the Republican forces too. So this is how the beautiful mounted map for this game looks like. I believe, guys, I will pause here. I could talk much longer about this game, but it has to be only short unboxing and overview. I'm really curious how this game will play. I'm really fond of the system and very interested in this historical topic. I admit I know a bit about this civil war, but not enough. This will definitely help me, to gather more information. Can't wait to bring this to the table. Probably once I play it, I will be again encouraged to bring Paths of Glory again to the table, which I also love. Yeah, so really nice work from the Compass Games, and really nice game from David, the designer. We'll be playing this, we'll be sharing my experiences. That's all for today. Thank you for being with me. If you like this video, please give thumbs up. If you like to see more content like that, do not hesitate and subscribe to the channel. Every subscription counts for such a small content creator like the Board Games Chronicle. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for being with me.